Once the video started and I heard my son's voice, I lost it. I couldn't stay in the room because all I heard him say was, "What did I do?"
3 former Memphis police officers have just been found not guilty on all charges in the state trial over the beating death of Tyre Nichols.
The jury reaching that verdict on just the second day of deliberations.
All right, y'all, let's get into it. It's so much crazy stuff that's happened in the world in the last 2 years, let alone the last 5 or 10. But if you remember Tyre Nichols, this was a young guy, 29-year-old in Memphis. Tyre Nichols, who is black, got beaten to death in a traffic stop by 5 cops who were black. This at the time was crazy because most of the stories with police are usually a racial thing.
Damn, I didn't do anything. Hey, I didn't hurt you. Ass around. All right. On the ground. Hey, all right. Break your shit. Okay, dude, damn. Turn the fuck around. Put your fucking hands on your back. Bitch, put your hands on your back. Okay, stop. I'm gonna knock your ass the fuck out. You guys are really doing a lot right now. Bro, lay down. I'm just trying to go home. Lay down. Man, if you don't lay down, I am on the ground. Put your hands on your stomach.
Right there. Somehow, Tyre Nichols was able to get up and break out running. Now, in most traffic stops, look, I'm one of those guys where I'm like, look, if you are pulled over by the police, you got to comply. You know, don't make things more difficult. But in this case, now, if you're familiar with this case at all, he was pulled over by the Scorpion Unit. Okay, so the Scorpion Unit was assembled in 2021 by the Memphis police chief. This unit was known to be one of the most ruthless groups in Memphis as far as beating up people, being really overzealous type of cops. So at the time when Tyre Nichols broke out running, anyway, they caught up with him a little bit later after where I paused this video. And then eventually they ended up beating this guy again. And, you know, by the time the paramedics came, one of the first responders said he didn't even know that Tyre Nichols had been beaten. The 5 officers ended up becoming, they ended up being released back in 2023, and they were charged with second-degree murder. Now, just recently now, you know, this case, you know, again, it was in the spotlight, you know, 2 years ago, but now the cops, they went on trial and they have been acquitted.
Yeah, this verdict was unanimous over the course of 2 days after a trial had started back on April 28th. The jury coming back and delivering a not guilty verdict for all of the 7 counts in this indictment. They are as followed. The most serious, of course, being that second-degree murder charge. You heard the jury there saying not guilty for Demetrius, Haley, Tadarrius Bean, and Justice Smith. On count 2 for the aggravated assault act in concert, not guilty.
Now, Demetrius Haley, he's like the main guy in this Scorpion group, from what I understood in the story. Now, back in 2023, when they pulled over Tyre Nichols, it's almost like he was kind of just targeted because the stop, they said they were arresting him for reckless driving. But from what I understand at the time, he was just pulled over at Tyre Nichols was pulled over at a stoplight, not driving reckless. And they immediately were like, you saw the footage, get the F out of the car. So someone driving erratically or recklessly, I mean, the first thing the cops would ascertain is try to see, are you drunk or is there something going on? They want to see what's up. They're usually not coming up to the car. The way they came up to the car was like he was already somebody who was running away from a robbery or somebody who just killed somebody and, you know, was armed and dangerous. So they came up to Tyre Nichols already ready to do something. At the time, Demetrius Haley, I don't know if this has been debunked, but at the time they were talking about how it was possible that Tyre Nichols was dating the ex-wife of Demetrius Haley. So that's what it seemed like at the time. And that was supposedly, allegedly, why they had, you know, pulled over Tyre the way it was. And they were going to whoop his ass. That's really what it looked like. And I think Tyre was aware of it, and that's why he ended up running the way he ran. So at the time, people didn't really understand, you know, why he was not only just scared being pulled over by these guys, but why he got tased and ended up getting up and running.
3, aggravated kidnapping, not guilty. Count 4, aggravated kidnapping, not guilty. Count 5, official misconduct. and then count 6, which was another count of official misconduct, both not guilty. And then count 7, that official oppression charge, also found not guilty. Within the courtroom, you saw a number of hugs that were taking place, obviously, from the officers. They're the former officers, their elation on their faces after this verdict was read. Again, these 3 officers still face the prospect of years in prison after they were convicted in federal court of charges last year. Again, these were for the state charges. Some more reaction coming in forthcoming. We are waiting to hear from attorney Ben Crump, who we understand also put out a statement shortly after this verdict was read. We'll go ahead and get that to you. We have not heard at this point if there's any reaction from the mother of Tyre Nichols, who was one of the state's witnesses in this case. Very emotional, again, during this trial that began back on April 28th. Pretty quick turnaround when you consider how much this jury was charged with, going down this list of charges. 21 counts between the 3 officers overall. But again, at this hour, the 7-count indictment, the jury coming back finding not guilty for all of these charges. And again, we'll wait to see what the sentencing is for those federal charges.
Now let's go back for a minute. Now this is crazy because they came back with the verdict fairly quickly, to be honest with you. I mean, to have those charges, for them to come back so quickly as far as a not guilty is wild. Now, if you go back, let's take a look at these 3 officers again. Let me go back. These guys. So Demetrius, Haley, Justin Smith, and I may be saying his name wrong. Tadarrius Bean. These 3 guys, they were the ones who faced the most serious charges. The two other officers became state witnesses.
And this ex-officer, Emmett Martin, not only testified that he beat Nichols while he was helpless, but also that he exaggerated Nichols' actions that prompted this traffic stop
in the first place
to begin with. Now, I can't remember a cop ever giving this kind of testimony in a case like this. Based on the cross-examination, how is the defense trying to counter this testimony? They seem to really focus on handcuffs and their potential to be a deadly weapon if only one hand is cuffed. Is that going to be enough?
Right. There's a lot of splitting hairs. But in the end, this officer who has cut a deal has said, we exaggerated what we did to pull him over in the first place. And then he didn't reach for the gun like we said he reached for the gun. So but the only way they could counter this is what they did in cross-examination and said, well, aren't you just making all of this up or saying this for your plea deal? You cut a plea deal, so you have to give this kind of testimony for the prosecution.
And then now we have this testimony from the paramedic who responded to the scene. He's saying that when he got there, nobody told him that Nichols had been beaten, that the officers said they thought Nichols took something, so he's administering Narcan, right, treating a different set of injuries.
The evidence in this case is so overwhelming and out there. I mean, first of all, one of the cops that flipped obviously said that they exaggerated something to pull him over. And again, I still think it was because Tyre Nichols was possibly dating somebody that was related to, not related to, but somebody who was an ex-girlfriend, ex-wife of Demetrius Haley, one of the main cops. I think it was definitely a target. The thing about this case that is so crazy is that you have 5 black officers beating up a black man, and we always talk about in this country police violence and how it's, you know, typically a racial thing. And this time it's really about officers abusing their authority. And that Scorpion group, how they got off not guilty is just beyond me. I mean, this story is so crazy. And I know at the time there were some protests at the time in Memphis and even in other cities at the time. But it's one of those stories that kind of went away for a while. People forgot about, and it's a lot different than a lot of the cases, the George Floyds and the Eric Gardners and the Philando Castiles. It's a lot different than those other stories because you have just straight black officers doing this. And the fact that this is another story where police essentially, they just not being held accountable for what they do. So, you know, RIP to Tyre Nichols. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on this one. I'm really, really surprised. Back in 2023, I said these cops are definitely going to jail. There was no reason for Tyre Nichols to be pulled over. As you see, one of the cops testified to that. He didn't have a gun. They tased him. They beat him up. They didn't admit they didn't help him get help administered to him by the first responders. You see what he looked like in the hospital bed after that beating. It don't make any sense. So Scorpion unit, unfortunately, they're not going to jail. Three of them should at least be going to jail. The other two that flipped, I don't know what their deal was, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Combo.